everybody, and welcome to another ASMR video here on the channel. In tonight's video, got a little bit of a mix of facts and history. In tonight's video, we're going to be going from 1900 all the way up to 2025, I believe, and essentially whisper one fact that happened in each year. If you like this format, be sure to let me know. We can do a follow-up for all of time. No, maybe not, but we can do more years. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy this video. Hopefully you learn something new. And most importantly, hopefully you find it relaxing. So without further ado, let's get into it. We begin with the year 1900. 1900, the Boxer Rebellion intensifies in China, leading to foreign intervention. In 1901, Queen Victoria dies, marking the end of the Victorian era. Theodore Roosevelt becomes US President after McKinley's assassination. 1902, the Second Boer War ends with the Treaty of Vereeniging, consolidating British control over South Africa. 1903, the Wright brothers achieved the first powered flight at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. 1904, the Entente Cordiale is signed between Britain and France, easing long-standing tensions. 1905, Einstein publishes his theory of special relativity, and the Russo-Japanese War ends with Japan's victory. 1906, the San Francisco earthquake and subsequent fires devastate the city, killing over 3,000 people. 1907, the Anglo-Russian Entente is formed, aligning Britain and Russia against Germany. 1908, the London Olympics are held, and old age pensions are introduced in the UK. 1909, American explorers reach the North Pole, led by Robert Peary. In 1910, King Edward VII dies, and George V ascends the British throne. In 1911, Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen reaches the South Pole. 1912, the Titanic sinks on its maiden voyage, resulting in over 1,500 deaths. 1913, suffragette Emily Davison dies after stepping in front of the King's horse at the Epsom Derby. 1914, World War I begins following the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. 1915 now, the Lusitania is sunk by a German U-boat, influencing US opinion on World War I. 1916, the Battle of the Somme results in over 1 million casualties. The majority of these are war-related or disaster-related, which probably fairly indicative of, the story of the human race, especially of recent years, sort of one conflict to another. 1917, the US enters World War I, and also the Bolshevik Revolution leads to the rise of Soviet Russia. In 1918, World War I ends with the armistice on November 11th, and also the Spanish flu pandemic begins. 1919, Lady Astor becomes the first female British Member of Parliament. 1920, the first radio news broadcast airs. 1921, the Communist Party of China is founded. 1922, the USSR is officially established. 1923, hyperinflation peaks in Weimar, Germany, and Hitler's beer hall putsch fails. In 1924, the first Winter Olympics are held in Chamonix in France. In 1925, Adolf Hitler publishes Mein Kampf. 1926, the general strike occurs in the UK, involving millions of workers. 1927, Charles Lindbergh completes the first solo, non-stop transatlantic flight. In 1928, Alexander Fleming discovers penicillin, the first true antibiotic. In 1929, the Wall Street crash triggers the Great Depression. Mahatma Gandhi leads the Salt March, a pivotal act of civil disobedience in India in 1930. In 1931, the Empire State Building opens in New York City. In 1932, the BBC launches the Empire Service, precursor to the World Service. In 1933, Adolf Hitler becomes Chancellor of Germany, and the Reichstag fire leads to increased Nazi power. Mao Zedong begins the Long March in China in 1934. In 1935, the Nuremberg Laws are enacted in Nazi Germany, institutionalizing racial discrimination. In 1936, the Spanish Civil War begins, and King Edward VIII abdicates the British throne. In 1937, Japan invades China, leading to the Second Sino-Japanese War. In 1938, Germany annexes Austria in the Anschluss. And in 1939, of course, World War II begins with Germany's invasion of Poland. In 1940, the Battle of Britain sees the RAF defend the UK against German air attacks. And Japan attacks Pearl Harbor, and the US enters World War II in 1941. 1942 brought the Battle of Stalingrad beginning, which marked a turning point in World War II. 1943, the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising occurs against Nazi forces. 1944, Allied forces land in Normandy, France for D-Day. And 1945, World War II ends. The UN is founded, and atomic bombs are dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. 1946, Winston Churchill delivers his Iron Curtain speech, highlighting the start of the Cold War. Not sure that's an out-and-out start Business is established in the UK. In 1949, NATO is formed and the People's Republic of China is proclaimed. The Korean War begins in 1950. 1951, we had the Festival of Britain, which showcases British recovery post-World War II. In 1952, Queen Elizabeth II becomes Queen after the death of her father George VI. In 1953, DNA's double helix structure is discovered by Watson and Crick. In 1954, the US Supreme Court rules in Brown v. Board of Education, ending racial segregation in schools. 1955, Rosa Parks' arrest sparks the Montgomery bus boycott. Hungary revolts against Soviet control in 1956. 1957, the USSR launches Sputnik, the first artificial satellite. NASA is established in the US in 1958. In 1959, Fidel Castro comes to power in Cuba. In 1960, 17 African nations gain independence in the Year of Africa. The Berlin Wall is constructed in 1961, as well as Yuri Gagarin becoming the first human in space. 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis brings the world close to nuclear war. In 1963, President John F. Kennedy is assassinated in Dallas, Texas. The US Civil Rights Act is signed into law in 1964. In 1965, US combat troops are deployed to Vietnam. 1966, England wins the FIFA World Cup. In 1967, the Six-Day War occurs in the Middle East. We had a positive one, now back to the wars. In 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy are assassinated. Apollo 11 lands the first humans on the moon in 1969. Or did it? In 1970, the first Earth Day is celebrated, highlighting environmental issues. In 1971, Intel releases the first microprocessor. The Watergate scandal begins in the US in 1972. And in 1973, the UK joins the European Economic Community. In 1974, President Nixon resigns over the Watergate scandal. And in 1975, the Vietnam War ends with the fall of Saigon. In 1976, the first commercial Concorde flight takes place. In 1977, we had the premiere of Star Wars, becoming a cultural phenomenon. In 1978, the first test tube baby, Louise Brown, is born in the UK. In 1979, the Iranian Revolution overthrows the Shah, leading to the establishment of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Solidarity movement begins in Poland in 1980, challenging Soviet influence in Eastern Europe. In 1981, President Ronald Reagan is shot and wounded in an assassination attempt. In becomes the leader of the Soviet Union and begins his reforms of perestroika and glasnost. The Chernobyl disaster occurs in the Soviet Union in 1986, causing one of the worst nuclear accidents in history. In 1987, the INF Treaty is signed between the US and the Soviet Union, eliminating intermediate-range nuclear missiles. The Soviet Union withdraws its forces from Afghanistan in 1988 after nearly a decade of conflict. 1989 brought the fall of the Berlin Wall, marking the beginning of the end of the Cold War and the reunification of Germany. 1990 now, Nelson Mandela is released from prison after 27 years, signalling the beginning of the end of apartheid in South Africa. 1991, the Soviet Union officially dissolves, marking the end of the Cold War and the emergence of independent nations. The Maastricht Treaty is signed in 1992, leading to the creation of the European Union. In 1993, the World Trade Center is bombed by terrorists, killing 6 people and injuring hundreds. In 1994, Nelson Mandela is elected President of South Africa, ending decades of apartheid. In 1995, the Oklahoma City bombing kills 168 people, marking the deadliest act of domestic terrorism in US history at the time. The Dolly the sheep is cloned in 1996, the first mammal to be cloned from an adult cell. In 1997 we have the Asian financial crisis begins, affecting economies throughout East Asia. 1998, the Good Friday Agreement is signed, bringing peace to Northern Ireland after decades of conflict. In 1999, the euro is introduced as a common currency in 11 European countries. And in the year 2000, Vladimir Putin becomes president of Russia, marking the start of a new era in Russian politics. 2001, the completion of the Human Genome Project draft is announced. Scientists successfully map about 90% of the human genome, marking a major breakthrough in genetics and opening new possibilities for medicine, biotechnology, and understanding human biology. In 2002, the African Union is established. The AU aims to promote unity, peace, and economic development across Africa, representing a major step forward for continental cooperation. In 2003, the Iraq War starts. A US-led coalition invades Iraq, toppling Saddam Hussein's regime and initiating years of turmoil in the region. In 2004, on the 26th of December, a massive undersea earthquake triggers tsunamis across the Indian Ocean, killing 230,000 plus, and prompting a global humanitarian crisis. 2005 brought Hurricane Katrina. The deadly hurricane devastates New Orleans and the Gulf Coast, highlighting failures in disaster preparedness and response. In 2006, Saddam Hussein is executed. 2007, the subprime mortgage crisis in the US sparks early tremors that evolve into the 2008 global financial crash. 2008, Barack Obama is elected as the first black US president, marking a historic milestone in American politics. 2009, swine flu pandemic sweeps the globe, infecting millions and prompting widespread vaccination campaigns. In 2010, the Haiti earthquake hits, killing over 200,000, with international relief efforts mobilizing in response to the disaster. Continuing with the disasters, in 2011 we have the Fukushima disaster. A mega earthquake and tsunami destroy the Fukushima Daiichi plant in Japan, causing a major nuclear emergency. In 2012, London hosts the Olympics again, showcasing global unity and sporting excellence amid economic recovery. In 2013, Edward Snowden leaks NSA files, sparking intense global debate over surveillance and privacy. In 2014, the Rosetta spacecraft's Philae lander successfully lands on a comet. In 2014. In 2015, the Paris Climate Agreement is signed by nearly 200 nations, committing to limiting global warming and reduce carbon emissions. In 2016, we have the Brexit referendum, and the UK votes to leave the EU. In 2017, Donald Trump is inaugurated as 45th US President, signalling major shifts in US policy and international relations. In 2018, the hashtag #MeToo movement matures, reshaping global conversations around sexual harassment and accountability. In 2019, the Notre Dame fire damages Paris's iconic cathedral, triggering worldwide restoration efforts. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic begins, disrupting daily life globally, with lockdowns, travel bans and vaccine development underway. In 2021, we had the Capitol riot on the 6th of Jan. A violent mob interrupts Congress's certification of the 2020 election results. 2022 brought the Russian invasion of Ukraine. What? I can't believe that's 3 years ago, that's insane. In 2023 we had an AI breakthrough. ChatGPT sparks global AI boom, igniting debates about ethics, regulation and the future of work. In 2024, the Gaza-Israel war intensifies, leading to humanitarian crises and global diplomatic efforts for ceasefires. And let's go for a positive one for 2025. Let's go Expo 2025 in Osaka begins. A 6-month World's Fair, highlighting future technologies and sustainability. Well, to be honest, I know you could argue that, all of human history is, could be summarised by, lurching from one conflict to the next, but I wasn't quite aware of how they would dominate this list. I know there are a few positive ones sprinkled in, but at the end of the day, I guess history is history, and these were ultimately some of the biggest things to happen. So hopefully that has helped you brush up on your human history and sweating, and I'm going